Gaza hospitals stopping some services, as UN warns fuel runs out tonight. Hello, I am host of Zeekay, and you are watching Zeekay News Digital Channel.
Between Israel and Hamas continues. There are calls for a humanitarian pause to allow adequate aid into Gaza. Israel has allowed food, water, and medicine into Gaza, but fuel supplies are being restricted due to fears of them falling into the hands of Hamas. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has proposed a temporary law to halt hostilities between Israel and Hamas. The repercussions of the war between Israel and Hamas are being felt throughout the volatile Middle East region. Despite some aid reaching Gaza, the lack of fuel is causing hospitals to struggle. Medics are using their phones for light as generators run out of fuel. Israel has banned fuel from entering Gaza, citing concerns that Hamas may use it for military purposes. The UN agency responsible for Palestinian refugees has warned that it may have to stop its operations in Gaza without more fuel. With plenty of aid building up in Egypt, frustration grows over the slow relief effort. A truck loaded with urgent supplies for patients in Gaza highlights the critical needs that are not being met. A baby rescued after a bombing in Khan Yunis serves as a tragic reminder of the human toll of the Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, condemns the bombardment and blockade of Gaza, stating that they violate international law. Hamas is accused of using civilians as human shields, which is also a clear violation of international humanitarian law. The situation in Gaza is deeply concerning, with clear violations of international humanitarian law taking place. No party involved in an armed conflict is exempt from abiding by international humanitarian law. Diplomatic efforts are ongoing, with international calls for humanitarian aid and a temporary lull in hostilities. Israel's war with Hamas is intensifying, and tensions are rising on the northern border with Lebanon. Strikes have also occurred in neighboring Syria, adding to concerns of wider regional turmoil. The Israeli government is resisting calls for a pause or ceasefire, while the Israeli media extensively covers the conflict. The Israeli military highlights Hamas' diversion of fuel meant for the UN for its own military infrastructure. In Gaza is causing international concern. There is growing pressure on Israel to address the crisis. Israel has ruled out a ceasefire but may consider a temporary lull. The U.S. Secretary, Antony Blinken, emphasized the need for aid to reach civilians. Diplomatic discussions are taking place regarding obligations under international law. Both Hamas and Israel are accused of endangering civilians. The intense Israeli bombardment has resulted in a high civilian death toll. Shocking images of children being killed and widespread destruction are circulating. Calls for action are increasing globally. Hostilities in Gaza and Israel have prompted calls for a temporary ceasefire to allow aid to reach the region. The Rafah crossing, the only open border between Gaza and Egypt, is not operated by Israel, but Israel still has oversight on what can enter and exit. Israel has stated that it will not open its crossings until more than 200 hostages held by Hamas are released from Gaza. As a result, Egypt is currently the only option for aid to enter Gaza, but the process has been slow, causing disappointment and concern. Despite aid building up in Egypt from around the world, only a small fraction of it has reached Gaza so far. Israel imposes stringent security checks on everything entering Gaza, and they have previously bombed the area around the Rafah crossing. The UN and aid agencies warn that if the situation doesn't improve, they may have to halt their operations in Gaza due to a lack of fuel. The next few hours are critical, and the deadline to address the fuel shortage is approaching. The situation in Gaza remains uncertain, and the lack of progress in aid delivery adds to the urgency of the crisis. As tensions persist, the need for a resolution becomes increasingly urgent to alleviate the suffering of the people in Gaza. In Gaza are dwindling, causing a crisis for the 2.3 million refugees living there. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees has been supporting them, but now their fuel reserves are running out. Hospitals in Gaza will be severely affected by the lack of fuel, hindering their ability to provide medical care. Fuel is also essential for transportation, allowing UN workers to reach different areas in the Gaza Strip. Additionally, fuel is needed to operate water desalination plants and pump away sewage, ensuring sanitary conditions. Israel is concerned that any fuel provided would go to Hamas, hindering efforts to address the crisis. Israel suggests asking Hamas for fuel to power the hospitals, but the situation remains dire. The lack of fuel in Gaza poses a significant threat to the well-being of the population. To learn more about this crisis, visit the website link provided in the description. Supplies in Gaza are dwindling, causing a crisis for the 2.3 million refugees living there. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees has been supporting them, but now their fuel reserves are running out. Hospitals in Gaza will be severely affected by the lack of fuel, hindering their ability to provide medical care. Fuel is also essential for transportation, allowing UN workers to reach different areas in the Gaza Strip. Additionally, fuel is needed to operate water desalination plants and pump away sewage, ensuring sanitary conditions. Israel is concerned that any fuel provided would go to Hamas, hindering efforts to address the crisis. Israel suggests asking Hamas for fuel to power the hospitals, but the situation remains dire. The lack of fuel in Gaza poses a significant threat to the well-being of the population. To learn more about this crisis, visit the website link provided in the description.
If you are new, then subscribe, like and share. Thanks for your time. Bye for now. Take care.